Welcome to the Osmo Early Bird Podcast. It's your old pal Emac coming to you with one Dave Lochran. You know him better as Lofty D as we get ready to look at Monday's 9-game MLB slate. How's it going, fella? How you feeling about the 76ers chances?
I'm expecting a gentleman's sweep, which is you win one game, Sixers win one, probably at home, goes 5 games, and that's about it. They're outmatched until Simmons can learn how to shoot. It's going to be really tough. Better bench for Toronto. Marcus Gasol interior defense. Plus, you can bring Ibaka in, not the same as he once was, but still a player. Siakam, maybe the most improved player of the year. I mean, you could argue that the Sixers have the best starting lineup in the league when Embiid's playing on 2 legs, but they have no bench, and Mike Scott's also hurt. So, but I mean, how about that Boston win? 22-point win. Al Horford so far might have had the most impressive performance of this playoffs that'll go unheralded, unlike, Damian Lillard and such.
Yeah, that one completely caught me off guard, the end result there. I mean, Milwaukee should rally, but did their coaches even have a plan? It didn't look that way.
A plan for if Giannis wasn't doing all of the dirty work? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, so we'll see. They got some time to figure it out. They should have some improvement, but that's why they play the games. You never know what's going to happen. Just ask the Spurs in Denver. So or OKC for a 3rd year in a row getting bounced in the first round. But let's get on over here to baseball.
Clippers won 2 games in Golden State.
Yeah, that is wild. It's just wild to me as well. But here we are. You want to do a little game by game here since there are just 9 of them?
Sure.
All right, let's hit it up here. First game on the docket, we've got Michael Wacha heading into Washington, D.C. We've got a 63 degrees temperature. He's going to be going against a lefty Patrick Corbin. 3.9 run implied total for the Redbirds. 4.7 for the Nationals. We'll have to see if Anthony Rendon is going to be in the lineup. He has been out for a couple days, but this is something that we want to look at here. Talk to me.
Yeah. Well, pitching matchup to start, Patrick Corbin against St. Louis. I mean, Corbin's a really, really solid pitcher. He's had some home run issues this year. But he's still somebody that you're going to get a ton of strikeouts from. The question is, do you want Corbin up against a slew of right-handed batters? They can easily get 8 righties into this lineup. It's not the prettiest thing. He doesn't have to pitch at Chase Field anymore, so that's good. And to be fair, Corbin's one of those guys who lefties and righties, pretty neutral splits. Last year, actually, he held righties to a lower weighted on base average than he did lefties. So it's not exactly that I worry too much about it, but more so I do have respect for this St. Louis offense. And I have a lot of respect for Washington's offense, more so facing lefties. The big thing is that I'm just not a Michael Wacha guy. I don't see the upside in this particular matchup. And even though he's coming back for this game off the 10-day IL, as we call it now, these are 2 pitching spots that on a 9-game slate, simply put, I think we can do a little bit better than this. The totals right now for the St. Louis Cardinals, 3.6. And then for Washington, you've got it at 4.5. If I'm choosing one, I'm obviously going Patrick Corbin, but I want to get him at a good price. I don't think you need to overpay for him in this spot.
Yeah, and that's what we're looking at here. This will be an interesting one from a pitching perspective because the guys who are reasonably solid, have tougher matchups. But looking at some of the pricing across the board over on Yahoo, shout out to them for being a presenting sponsor of the Early Bird Podcast. If you have not yet signed up for Yahoo, come in on one of our links and use the promo code AWESOMO to get $30 in Yahoo Sports Rewards points. With your first deposit, they will match up to $30, and those are available for immediate use in all contests. Over on Yahoo, Justin Verlander, 57, Patrick Corbin, 52, Drops all the way down to Zack Wheeler, 43. Kenta Maeda, 41. I have a feeling we're going to be flocking to Maeda. And then it's just kind of everybody separated by $5 between Mike Soroka, Kyle Freeland coming off the IL, Frankie Montas, Eduardo Rodríguez, Jeff Samardzija, John Means. So it'll be kind of a fun one because there's no gimme here. As there have been some days here and there, so this will be a good fun slate. Lots of decision points, which is what we like to see. But back over here to wrap up the Washington and Cardinals side of things. I think you're completely right. The strength of the Cardinals is their many right-handed hitters. And Corbin is just pretty good, but this feels like something we may not want to tangle with. I'll see if do you have anything on Anthony Rendon news?
I didn't have anything yet. I just know that
elbow. It's a sore elbow. He's been out of the lineup for 6 of the last 7 games.
Yeah, but it's swelled up from what I saw recently, so now it gets even worse, which could force him to the IL, not the DL. Because they're not disabled.
No, they are not. Let's see. It says that he's going to be day-to-day, unlikely to get on the injured list, but at some point something's got to give. That was the Roto World blurb there.
For now, I would assume that he won't be in the lineup.
I would agree with that. Moving on to our next game here, we've got one of our intriguing pitching options. We have no, it's not Frankie Montas. But it is Eduardo Rodríguez, as we have the Oakland Athletics heading into Boston to take on the Red Sox. 53-degree first game temperature. The Red Sox implied run line keeps ticking up. It's up to 5 now. When I started my research, it was at 4.8, so it's up a little higher. JD Martinez has missed the last 2 games for Boston. I don't think he played today. I lose track. JD Martinez. But in any event, talk to me a little bit here about Eduardo Rodríguez. There are some strikeouts, of course, available in the Oakland Athletics lineup, but there's also a lot of power that he's going to have to navigate as they generally will put everybody they can in the right side of the platoon advantage. Are you willing to consider Eduardo Rodríguez as your
You're right, by the way. Martinez out Sunday as well.
Okay.
This is one that concerns me quite a bit, actually. I'm going to tell you why. Now, we don't have a crazy sample, especially against lefties this year, but the Oakland Athletics have faced the 7th most left-handed plate appearances this season, and they have the 2nd lowest K rate at 15.8%. Do I think that comes up a little bit? Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised for that to be the case. But in the same breath, it's not something you feel particularly comfortable about either. Especially when it's an Oakland team that is jam-packed with so much talent. Since the start of last season, they were bottom 10 in K rate against lefties, and also with their 9.9% K rate was the 6th highest in baseball. So there's a few ways that this could get ugly for Erod. Not to mention that Fenway Park is one of the more righty-friendly venues in the league. Rodríguez has walked 3 batters in 3 of his 5 starts. He does have the strikeout upside, but each of his 2 really solid starts have come against 2 bad offenses in Baltimore and Tampa Bay. I think he can struggle here. I'm not saying he gets crushed against Oakland like he did earlier in April against this same Oakland team. But when you look at their lineup, and there just aren't that many easy outs. Even the guys that will strike out are guys that can really make you pay as well. So maybe from a tournament standpoint, you could make sense of it, but they aren't striking out a lot either, which makes it less appealing. No, Erod to me it's tough for me to get there. And Frankie Montas, there's just not a lot of strikeout upside here.
Right.
Against Texas, you get 6, sure. Surprisingly, he has 11 strikeouts in 2 meetings with Houston, which definitely surprised me. He just doesn't have a lot of swing and miss stuff. And while Boston has struggled this year, once again, at Montas's price specifically, you can do better. By the way, check this out. The Yankees are even money to win the division. The Rays, who lead the division right now, playing beautifully. Kevin Cash, give him all the credit. Glasnow's look great. Snell, so on, so forth. Good offense, surprisingly. They're plus 135. The Red Sox plus 430 to win the division. They're only 1 game ahead of the Orioles for last place. So do I think they'll turn it around? Yes, I do. But that also, and by the way, just because they're not expected to do a whole lot, that doesn't mean that I think Montas comes in this one with an excellent opportunity to produce big numbers. I'm probably staying away from pitching here. I do think Boston makes for an interesting stack. Although, as you mentioned, that total seems pretty high for a meeting with Montas, who isn't great, but also isn't bad at all. If Boston's going to be wildly popular, they might be actually an easier team to stay away from with that highest total right now on the slate.
That is interesting, and thank you for pointing out the Athletics that second lowest strikeout against lefties. That's a bit
pretty crazy, right?
Yeah, it's a bit of a surprise. I was looking back because I'm like, how did I miss it that much? And then I thought, has their team changed that much? So I looked in at 2017 of these same hitters that are on their current active roster had the fourth highest strikeout rate against lefties at 23.6%, and then against our last season they were a little bit better. Let me get to the Athletics. They had a 22.1%, so they were number 13 overall. And again, that's the hitters regardless of where they were. For those of you listening, it's not just what did the Athletics do, it's what did these players do in that time frame. So it's kind of apples to apples.
Right. So if Grossman was in Minnesota,
yeah, he's not.
We're counting those same plate appearances just now that he's on Oakland, taking the entire active roster with which we have now, which is very helpful.
Yep. But that's a good one. So shout out to somebody in our I think it was Tribe of Shabazz in our office chat or our office hours today was asking me about looking, let's see, here's this question. How much, if at all, should I weigh current offensive performance, last 7 to 14 days, season long, etc.? And I was saying, well, that's kind of a small sample size, but you do want to watch out for streaks because sometimes you can see hitters that are doing well or poorly, but you're oftentimes better suited to be looking at exit velocity and things of that nature, xWOBA, expected ISO, rather than finding out your guy had two hard hits, screaming line drives, and went right to players, and then had two warning track fly balls. So that 0 for 4 probably was a productive 0 for 4. So you want to know.
You should also be trying to see if there are legitimate adjustments they've made, especially with pitchers. I mentioned it on Awesome Radio today, Sirius XM, Sirius 210 XM87, Sirius XM Fantasy, that like buying low and selling high. You shouldn't just be buying low because a guy has been terrible and you think he's way better than that, or selling high because you don't think a guy can sustain it. Do the research and figure out whether or not this guy is actually doing something that makes him that much better or that much worse. And if that's something that you think will continue.
Yep. Absolutely. So this one, we'll look to the Red Sox where we can. Martinez dealing with back spasms, which is why he's missed the last few games. So that's a big stick out of their lineup, but they still are pretty solid. Steve Pearce would probably get another start here if JD can't go. On the other side, I'm still slightly leaning towards Rodriguez, but it's not the slam dunk I kind of thought it was going to be in this matchup. But of course, always consider Oakland because they can just get it done against anybody if things break their way. The next game, we've got the Cincinnati Reds at the Miami. Good God, the Metropolitans, the Mets. Tanner Roark going against Zack Wheeler. This is the second consecutive day the Mets will be facing a former Nationals pitcher because they had Gio Gonzalez on Sunday. We've got 3.6 implied run total for the Reds, which is relatively low. Zack Wheeler priced up a little bit at 9,300. I'm curious for your take on him. I like attacking Tanner Roark, particularly with the lefties, but Robinson Cano got hit on the hand Sunday, left after the first inning. So we still have McNeil, Conforto, Nimmo, that we can build around here, but that losing Cano kind of dampens my spirits for targeting Tanner Roark, who is not good against lefties, and that goes underrepresented. What do you like here starting at the top with the pitchers, if anything?
Yeah. So the implied totals are interesting here because Cincinnati's at 3.6. I think I think Wheeler can do a very good job of limiting runs here. That's not the concern. 4.5 run total for the New York Mets. Price tag is definitely going to come into play. Like as far as Tanner Roark goes, now if you're getting him cheap enough, okay, that's fine. But I want to talk about Wheeler just for a second because while this isn't the most imposing Cincinnati team, they're also a team that, we've seen this. They don't have a lot of strikeouts in their lineup at all, right? You go back to the start of last season, up and through this season as well, take their active roster. And even if you were to exclude non-pitchers, they're still one of the lowest strikeout teams. Actually, the fourth lowest strikeout team, the Angels, Pirates, and Astros behind them. That is a problem to me. Now, what I could see from Wheeler is him going like 8 scoreless innings with 5 strikeouts. It wouldn't surprise me. I've said this about guys against the Angels who don't strike out, but really are not an imposing offense. I think it's very similar here. I don't see Wheeler as a bad option, but the probability that he hits his ceiling here to me is much lower than I would like it to be. And that's really because this is a Cincinnati team that doesn't strike out much. You do have some discipline and some patience at the plate as well. Paying for Wheeler doesn't seem like the spot I'm probably going to end at. There are a few guys we're going to get to shortly that I do like more than Wheeler and certainly more than Tanner Roark.
All right, let's continue on in this one. Again, remember, we do have the DFS strategy show that will be taking place at 9:15 Monday morning, and you'll get the deep dive article behind the paywall that will be done by one Dave Lochran. You also will get the deeper dive show that'll go off at 5 o'clock Monday, and then live before lock, taking you down the home stretch. And then we're going to do a simulcast because we will have Fast Eddie hopping in to do basketball live before lock for the 2-game slate there. And then you've got, I think there's just one hockey game. If there's one hockey game, Jake won't do a show, but he'll be there in Slack chat. I've been having some good luck with hockey thus far, Lofty. It's been very, very good to me these playoffs. So
very nice.
We'll have to see what happens if that continues because it's a lot of work. I played some NASCAR today too. I got third in I don't know, whatever the $1 contest is. I beat out 27,800 other people and turned my dollar into $375. That was fun.
Nice.
All right, but let's get back to brass tacks here. We've got Atlanta hosting the San Diego Padres. Nick Margevicius will be taking the bump for his 6th career start. He is, of course, a lefty going against an offense that is phenomenal against lefties. You got Mike Soroka on the other side taking on the Pod squad here. Padres have a 4.1 implied run total. The Braves have a 5 implied run total. That's gone up 0.1 since I did my write-up. Let me get to this. I wanted to throw out some notes here. The Braves are one of my favorite stacks in this situation. So Margevicius, I was looking at him. He does not have overpowering stuff. His fastball is sitting around 80, 88, 88 and a half, depending on which site you look at. So that's not really overpowering. He has above average curve, above average slider, but no real out pitch and no real electric stuff. So he's going to be just fine as a starter, and especially because he's a lefty, but this is going to be a difficult matchup for him. So if we look to the Braves, you got Josh Donaldson should be in the lineup after getting Sunday off. He is absolutely elite against lefties. You can surround him with Ozzie Albies, Ronald Acuna, Dansby Swanson, Johan Camargo, depending on where those guys are in the lineup. If you can get them more adjacent to a full stack, that would be helpful. And then don't forget about Freddie Freeman, Lofty. In his last 278 lefty matchups, he has a 407 WOBA and a 235 ISO. That is elite for anybody. So Atlanta is looking like one of my stacks. Now we're going to have to pay full price for them, but at first blush, they're the ones I want to go to today.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with that. Josh and I mentioned though on the deeper dive the other day that they're kind of a difficult and underwhelming team to stack for some reason, just by the way that they're set up, and you have especially against righties, but against the lefty, I like it more. And here's why. You mentioned a couple of them, but Albies better from the right side of the plate by far. Johan Camargo better from the right side of the plate.
Yep.
Freddie Freeman can hit lefties. You mentioned it. Acuna with the platoon advantage. I really like the Braves a lot more against lefties than I do against righties, just because of the way that they line up, because of the logistics as far as stacking goes. So I'm with you there. I like them. I also don't mind Mike Soroka either, though. Uh, Soroka's a good pitcher. He's going to face a slew of righties here. Career splits against righties haven't been as good as I'd have expected, but I don't expect that to that to continue. He throws his slider this season. He's at 2 starts. He's throwing the slider 31% of the time, which is pretty interesting. That's definitely a lot more than he did last year, and he's getting better results against same-handed hitters, as he should. He also has a changeup that he can mix in against lefties. He's going to go out there and throw that pitch a decent amount of the time as well. So far this year, about 15%. Last year, probably around that too. Yeah, 15-17%. So he's got 2 pitches that he can rely on here. Look, he's not overpowering. He's not he doesn't have totally disgusting stuff, but I believe in that slider. I believe in the fastball. And I think that he's one of the guys that you want to pay close attention to today. Very good spot. Applied total for San Diego's at 4.2. I think that comes down, by the way. He's also a pretty heavy favorite at home. The Braves should have no trouble putting runs on the board against Margevicius. So Mike Soroka, to me, is a pretty solid option here. I don't mind paying that price point. Wish he was a little bit cheaper, but I'm on board with it. And again, we'll get to Verlander and a couple of other guys here. There are a few, but Soroka's one in the mid range that I like quite a bit.
All right, let's get on to another game here as well. We've got Justin Verlander going against the Minnesota Twins. Jake Odorizzi will be taking the mound there for the Twins. We've got a 4.9 implied run total here for the Astros, 3.7 for the Twinks. We know that Verlander is... he's Justin Verlander. Yes, he's another year older, but he's still probably the best pitcher we have on the slate here. But the one thing, this is a much, much different Minnesota Twins lineup. They are not striking out nearly as much as they have the last few years. No more Cano. They don't have, or not Cano, Sanu. No more
Sano.
Thank you.
You were close.
God. Now, as soon as I said Sanu, I started thinking about...
you mixed Mohamed Sanu.
Yeah, wait. He doesn't play for Cincinnati. He's with Atlanta. And then I'm like, dude, you're not even in the right sport here. Oh, it's Sunday night. Good thing we didn't wait too long to do this podcast. Right. I would be in some real trouble here. But
to be fair, Mohamed Sanu did play for, never mind. You know what? Let's keep going. Because you just said he has it on Cincinnati. And then for a second, I thought we were playing Cincinnati. He's not playing Cincinnati. He's playing for Minnesota. So, let's keep going here.
Bad. So, in any event, like in Verlander here, not so excited about Odorizzi. I think Michael Brantley's in a phenomenal spot. I like Springer and Bregman. They're just fine against fellow righties. Odorizzi kind of changing up his pitch mix a little bit, as you and Adam have pointed out multiple times, but still a tough spot for him. If I go anywhere, I want to go to Verlander, and while he is the most expensive pitcher on the slate, he is not, head and shoulders more priced up than everybody else, just at 10.8 on DK. And as I mentioned over there, 5,700 is a little spendy, but all you got to do is find one or two $8 players on Yahoo, and you can work him in just fine. So I think Verlander is going to be in our plans. How do you like this matchup, though, for him with the new version of the Minnesota Twins?
No, I mean, I don't love it. Minnesota's been great against righties this season. Last I looked, they led the league in isolated slugging, and they have one of the lowest K rates. But it's still Justin Verlander, kind of the same thing I mentioned last time, because this is the last start Verlander had also came against Minnesota. So, we have a bit of a reference point. You don't want to read too much into it, but yes, the Twins are striking out at the second lowest clip against righties this year. You're almost up to 800 plate appearances, and it is real. Astudillo is not going to strike. A lot of these guys won't strike out. Max Kepler won't strike out. He's hitting for good power. But Verlander tossed 8 one-run innings. He gave up a solo shot, 8 strikeouts, no walks last time out. And the biggest thing is you're not overpricing him. He's not wildly overpriced, which means that you can get there. I mean, particularly on DraftKings at 10.8, that's not too much for a guy that's one of the best fantasy pitchers in the entire league. I'm okay with it. I am. Do I think you must play him? No, but in cash, I mean, Verlander is still going to be a guy that makes a ton of sense. And going from Minute Maid to Target Field, that pretty neutral. They're both moderate parks for pitchers. And he's not going to allow a lot of hard contact. He will still get some Ks, as we saw last time out. He is that good, and that's pretty much the approach I'm going to take here. As far as Odorizzi goes, uh, he shouldn't be this. What you were referencing in the pitch mix change, he shouldn't be the same reverse splits pitcher that we've seen before. He will be a little bit better against righties. But look, Houston does not strike out, and I mean they really don't strike out, particularly against righties. Really anybody. They're still a very good offense, and Odorizzi escaped last start against Houston, only allowing 2 runs, gave up 8 hits here and a lot of hard contact. I don't have any interest in going here. Even if he does limit runs, he's not going to miss enough bats. You do not have to go to Odorizzi here. And right now, 4.6 run total for Houston's actually a little bit lower than I would have anticipated.
Yeah, the other thing with Odorizzi, over his last 800 batters faced, he has nearly a 10% walk rate. That's just not good. That's not good, because when he makes a mistake, chances are someone's going to be on base.
Yep.
So, continuing along here, we've got, again, this is just first blush. We got 5 more games here, so we're going to keep working on this. But Kyle Freeland going against Zach Davies. 4.7 implied run total here for Milwaukee. Of course, this will be, they will probably have the roof closed here at Miller Park, because it is slated to be in the low to mid 40s at first pitch. So that doesn't sound like fun. The Rockies have the 3rd worst offense against right-handed pitchers when we utilize the weighted runs created plus metric, and they are sitting at 69, which means they score 30% less efficiently against right-handers than league average. Yikes. But that said, Zach Davies is not really going to scare me. I'm actually starting to consider, I didn't like it at first, but I'm starting to consider Kyle Freeland at 7,700 as an SP2. Still a tough lineup to tangle with, because we know that we'll see Jesus Aguilar, Ryan Braun, Kane. They're going to bring out all their righties, Perez, etc. They'll drop Moustakas and Shaw down in the order, but they're fine against lefties. So this is a tough one. Do you have an initial impression for either side here?
Well, I don't know what is going on with Christian Yelich right now. So, he left
that's right. Yeah.
He left Saturday's game, and then Sunday. I don't believe he played Sunday.
He did not.
Not exactly what you're looking for when it comes to your best player. Now, look, this might not be Coors Field, but Miller Park for the Milwaukee Brewers has been insane. I mean, just insane. 13 of Yelich's 14 home runs have come inside Miller Park. It is one of the most lefty-friendly venues in the entire league. Just a wonderful park for hitters. But no, I'm sorry. Yelich did start.
So he did play, and he hurt his back.
Came out again, though.
Yeah.
So that's not good. If I had to guess, right? Could be wrong here, but if I had to guess, Yelich. You know what? Hold on. I'm reading the notes here, and I would just want to make sure that. Did he actually exit on Saturday too?
I know he got a stolen base, and I know he played, but I don't know if he left.
I don't think he did. I think they have this written wrong. I believe he just exited. So
Sunday's
this note here says Yelich is expected to sit out of Sunday's game against the Mets. No, that would make sense, but is not expected to require a trip to the injured list. Yelich left Saturday's game with lower back discomfort, but the issue doesn't sound particularly serious. Ben Gamel's likely to start in his absence. I just don't see anywhere in this game that Yelich came out. He did have 4 plate appearances. Let's see if there's anywhere that he was replaced.
Yeah, I'm looking at the box score, and nobody came in and played right field.
I do not
Yeah, they
See,
didn't bring in any outfielders, so nobody even moved, and they
no,
didn't write
and
it off. So
he swiped the bag
and hit a
in
home run.
he swiped the bag in the 8th inning. I don't think so. So I don't know if anyone knows something we don't. I can't catch it. We can't catch everything, but
Right.
we'll see if he's in the lineup and it's not serious. I'm, go ahead and load up on Yelich. Now, there's no question here that lefty isn't exactly what we were looking for, but he's just been so good that to me it really doesn't matter all that much. I mean, I'm happy to load up on bats here from the Milwaukee side of the ball. I think Kyle Freeland's a good pitcher, but I just have a ton of respect for these Rocky bats. And a couple of things. Look at some of their hitters when it comes to hitting lefties too. Ryan Braun might not be great anymore, but he can still hit lefties really well. A few bats in here can. I don't like it as much as I would if it were against a weak right-hander, but I'm not opposed to looking at these Milwaukee bats, and I can certainly tell you I have no interest in Anderson. And then with Zach Davies, man, he has done a very good job of limiting runs, but you are not going to get high upside, especially not at Miller Park from Davies. I don't love Colorado here. I'd be lying if I said I loved Colorado, but I definitely don't love Zach Davies. And right now Vegas has Milwaukee or Colorado with a 4.4 total. I think that's pretty fair.
All right, moving along here. Baltimore at the White Sox. John means business, and Manny Benuelos. I even watched the YouTube thing, Lofty, and now I can't remember how to say it.
Had it right the second time, I believe.
All right. In any event, interesting matchup here. The Orioles, not that scary on offense, but not exactly sure what we want to do with Benuelos. John Means came out of nowhere for a monster performance in his last outing. I'm not sure what to do with that information either, because I am just so used to targeting everybody against any Baltimore Oriole pitcher. I'm at a loss here, so I suspect this will be one I consider playing on both sides. Do you have a stronger feeling about the hitters or the pitchers in this matchup today?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it?
And 50 degrees at first pitch. I should throw that out there.
Okay. Yeah, look, Means is a lefty that throws, low 90s. So this was interesting too. I was looking over his pitch mix. He went almost entirely fastball changeup. And I think that makes sense because he was going up against a bunch of, righties and switch hitters in the Chicago White Sox. So it's kind of interesting. And you look at how did those pitches do? Well, the changeup got a ton of whiffs in that game, a ton. He's probably going to go ahead and do much of the same again against this same White Sox team, right? Will it work? I don't know. Are we going to get the same results? It's very hard to say. He's looked pretty decent in his 3 starts and 4 appearances out of the bullpen. That doesn't mean though that I'm afraid of targeting the White Sox. Does it mean you can look towards John Means? I suppose it's not the craziest idea. I want to just very quickly see where they rank against changeups, this active roster going back to last season. That could tell us something because the amount of times he threw this changeup is something that we really want to pay attention to. So the White Sox, this active roster against changeups last year was, look at that. Oh, surprise, 29th in the league, EMAC. So, well, we can look over it individually, not going to spend all our time doing that now, but if a lot of this team has struggled, and I know off the top of my head, there are a few bats in this lineup that do, it's not the craziest idea. And it's also not crazy to see why he actually came through with a decent performance. Now, the White Sox had the 4th highest total on the slate at 4.8. I think they'll still be popular, but it's going to depend on, do people want to pay a ridiculous price for the White Sox? So I don't think they will be that popular when you have to pay $5K almost for every hitter, which means that if you're playing Means and he has a good game, you aren't exactly getting a ton of leverage against all your White Sox stacks because I don't think there will be many of them. But that's pretty much where we're at. Benuelos was a guy that Last time out, I did have interest in. Unfortunately, he only went 4 innings, but he held him scoreless, had 4 strikeouts. Let's see can he throw more pitches in this one? If so, I would still be interested. If he can get up to 90 pitches, but he was the price point is a little bit tough. Are you okay paying a mid 7K price point? The answer for me is no, and we will get to that in this very next game. I will tell you why there is a pitcher who I like more and I feel more confident about.
Yeah, here's one that's interesting. The White Sox on the season have the 24th isolated power, so sixth lowest at 133. That's a lot lower than I would have expected. They're also striking out
against lefties or
against lefties. They're also striking out at 24.8%. So that's pretty high. So, interesting. I guess I just fixate on who is it, Anderson and Abreu, and just assume everybody else.
By the way, I don't hate
average, and they're not.
I don't hate Baltimore, but the same thing applies. A lot of these guys are really expensive. Baltimore, where you're getting them cheap, makes a lot of sense. Also, keep in mind, like if Trey Mancini's out of the lineup, that really does help Banuelos. And he is obviously their best hitter, particularly from the right side. So pay attention to what some of these injuries look like as well. It may change things for us throughout the day.
Yeah, the good VR, Mancini, Nunez, and Dwight Smith Jr. are all 16-20 on Yahoo, but they are Ricard and everybody else is $9 or less. So you could get some savings there, depending on how you're feeling about that one. Going on to our next game here, Ryan Stanek, Brad Keller. Wait, I didn't skip one, did I? No, we're good.
No, you're good. You said we had 5 left. We only had 4 left when you said 5.
So I've gone back and forth on Keller here. I like him as a pitcher. I think he's solid. I did write up in the free hitters spotlight hitters and stacks article. I did write up the Rays as a team to stack, but there are only 2 games on the late slate because it looks like the sites are giving up on the San Francisco game, which starts an hour and a half after everything else. So they're running that as a showdown slate. So we only have 4 teams to choose from. So I decided to go with the Rays here against Keller. Keller has some excellent numbers. He has 10 career home runs allowed. That's it, Lofty. He doesn't walk anybody. He doesn't strike anybody out, but he allows barely any power and a ton of ground balls. Are you going to Keller here, or are you going for Chirinos, who is the
Chirinos was the one I was referencing. Okay. Unfortunately, he's not listed as the starter anymore, but he's expected to be the long relief here. I mean, I just think when you're looking at all of the pitchers that are available to us from like 7K and to 8,500, 8,300, whether it be Montas, Wacha, Samardzija, Chirinos, Keller, Freeland, Margevicius, Banuelos, Roark, Odorizzi, John Means, Zach Davies. Chirinos just seems to be the actual best pitcher here. And there are just a lot of strikeouts on this Kansas City team, man. I know they got to him last time out, but I'm not going to take one start and draw conclusions based on one appearance. No, I can't do that. You look at this Royals team, and their strikeout rates are ridiculously high. Go back to the start of 2018, and I can rattle them off to you, Emac. We've got Mondesi 28%, so Jorge Soler 28, Owings 28, Dozier 27, Hamilton 23. A lot of these guys will strike out quite a bit outside of Whit Merrifield and like Alex Gordon, who's at 19.5%. Everyone's at 22% or above. And you have 5 of them at around 28% or higher. Sorry, 25% or higher. I'm okay with that. Lots of Ks, potential strikeouts here. The question is just a matter of how long can Chirinos go? I wish I could feel like he could throw 90 plus pitches. If that was the case, I would have him everywhere.
Let's see here. He has gone. Yeah. That was a big jump in his pitch count from 48 to 70 to 9. So
Well, I believe he started one of them,
Oh, and the others were the long
and the
relief,
other was
yeah.
long relief.
Gotcha. That will be interesting. Hopefully, we'll get some smoke signals or something coming out of Tampa Bay to let us know what is going on. But they have sort of been obfuscating things, subterfuge there. It's chicanery, Laffy, chicanery. Last game, the late game. I like it. Like it for the pitching because it is the best pitcher's park we have. It is Jeff Samardzija. I will not be taking him, but I will look to Kenta Maeda. Now, Maeda, the question is, if we're looking at him on a price per pitch, what are we going to get? He is 9,700 here on DK. He has gone in his 5 starts. His first start, 106 pitches. That's probably going to be the most we're going to see from him outside of a playoff game. Then 91, 82, 98, just 74 in the last one. Had a rough outing there in Chicago. Gave up a home run, gave up 6 earned runs, had 3 walks. It just was bad timing on his hits. The sequencing was not in his favor. He only had, 10 total base runners and 6 of them scored. So I still want to go back to Maeda here. What is your inkling on this one? Because it's a great matchup, but 9,700 on DK. Would you consider the matchup and his price? How would you consider that versus Verlander with the tougher matchup, the higher price, but the longer leash to throw more pitches?
I think ownership definitely comes into play here, but I mean, Kenta Maeda is just, I still believe that he's a really good pitcher. And he's been able to throw 100 plus pitches, 98 pitches this year, 106. I don't think Roberts is going to really limit him. He's got the best pitcher park in the league going for him. The lowest total of the slate is San Francisco. I'm a big believer in Kenta Maeda, and I look at this Giants lineup. There's really nothing about it, particularly at this park, that scares me at all. I mean, yeah, I'm on board. The only thing is, they'll have a lot of lefties here, but your lefties are outside of Belt, who has big home road splits. Might be Solarte or Panic or Sandoval, or Crawford or Para. None of those guys are really all that scary whatsoever. To me, somebody like Maeda here is, I think the price point's pretty reasonable. I wouldn't be surprised to see him have his best game of the season against San Francisco.
All right, and then on the other side, a new thank you for Jeff Samardzija. The park does help him, not enough. There's going to be a lot of lefty Dodgers going against him, and I think they are the ones we want to target because many of them have above average power, which should serve them well here in San Francisco. Let's see, first pitch temperatures 58 degrees, so that's not too bad. Let's see, that'll do it for the slate. Reminder again, you get the 9:30 show in the morning, or 9:15 the DFS strategy show. Check out my pinned tweet. We're continuing the Fred Van Elite contest, but we've changed it up a little bit. So you'll find on my pinned tweet a link, and I'll also put it in the show notes here, that you can use to sign up to not that contest, but the actual Awesemo DK League. We're going to start, we're getting critical mass here, and we're going to start doing some added prizes. The only problem is, and the reason we want to get more people in the league, is if you run anything bigger than $20 on, or 20 entries on Yahoo, and it doesn't fill, it doesn't run. It doesn't resize. So we're going to set this one at 40 again. People, it filled up quick. If it keeps filling up quick, we'll move it up to 50. But what we'd like to do is start doing one of these a day, or 3 or 4 of these a week in the other sports, and give away swag and I was going to say prescriptions, subscriptions here, and some extra good stuff. So the contest will just be $1. We'll do something goofy, like whoever the Awesemo person is in it will have to do something silly, like me playing Fred Van Vliet, but it'll be fun. So check out my pinned tweets. Jump on in there. It's at EMAC DFS. We had about 100 people join the league this weekend, so it's nice to see it getting bigger. And then we'll start running more and more stuff. You can follow Laffy over at Laffy_D on Twitter, and then it is Awesemo_COM. With that, gamers, good luck.